I mean, yeah, if you want to talk about any of that, man, you're free to. And I said, it's your position that you can't have rationality if everything's molecules in motion. Rationality.
It's difficult to understand what you guys are saying and what the context is. I don't know if you guys want to talk about something for a little bit. I'm willing.
I thought I explained it. You think that there can't be rationality if everything is molecules in motion, correct?
Oh, you're dealing with the issue of materialism. And it is difficult for a materialist to justify logic if materialism is true, since it implies the physical brain is limited to the laws of chemistry. How then does one chemical state leading to another chemical state produce proper logical inference? Those are the questions.
Yeah.
Not, can you tell us
So
what?
you're saying it's difficult or you can't have rationality?
Um, Difficult question to answer. If you can't have rationality because chemical reactions can produce some form of rationality, but is it ultimately correct or not? In order to know if it's ultimately correct or not, you have to have transcendentals by which you can then assert that certain values are true and that they have logical inference.
Right. Well, if you're not disputing that there can be rationality if everything's molecules in motion, then there's nothing to talk about there.
Now you understand.
Are you making that claim?
You understand what I'm saying? Rationality is based on the laws of logic, which are transcendental necessities. How then does materialism support or vindicate the idea of transcendental necessities, and by which you can then have rational discourse? Can it be the case that there is a brain that is limited to the laws of chemistry that can accidentally produce something rational, but you wouldn't know if it's producing something rational from its own perspective? Therefore, materialism is self-refuting. You'd have to leave that materialistic view and go out to something dealing with transcendentals, nominalism.
But that's an external critique, man.
No, it's not.
You're saying the problem with materialism is that doesn't have some sort of non-material.
Okay, it's an external critique. How is it an external critique?
Because under materialism, there is none of that.
Okay, so how is it an external critique?
Yeah, because under materialism, there isn't that transcendental stuff.
I get that. How's it an external critique?
Because under materialism, there is no transcendental stuff.
Okay, I guess you are not up on the issues or the logic. Repeating yourself. You haven't demonstrated how it's an external critique. Because what did I
Well,
say?
in order for it to be an internal critique, you have to assess materialism on its own terms. And on its own terms, it's going to be matter in motion. So for you to make the objection that under materialism, there isn't non-material stuff is an critique.
No, I guess you weren't listening. What I stated was that a materialistic worldview, dealing with this issue of the physical brain, one chemical state that leads to another chemical state, how does it produce proper logical inference? How would you know? From within its own view, you would not be able to know because it's just chemical necessity, therefore it refutes itself. That's just that simple. If, however, you want to demonstrate that such a conclusion of the physical brain is actually correct, you'd have to leave that worldview, that position, and adopt transcendentals, by which you can then ascertain whether or not the solutions are correct or not.
Okay, so there's two issues on the board. One is whether or not it can be the case that there's rationality under materialism. The second issue that you brought up is whether or not we can know if something's right. So let's take them one at a time. The second objection is an epistemic concern. I'm not concerned with that one right now. I'm merely concerned about whether or not you think that there can be rationality under materialism, yes or no.
Uh, can't justify materialism in, excuse me, rationality in materialism.
That seems to be that you're talking about the second question, because justification is going to be about like an epistemological concern. I'm just wondering if it can be the case that there can be rationality under materialism, whether or not you can justify it, confirm it, know that you have it. I don't care about that right now. I need to understand what you're saying. Are you saying that there can be rationality under materialism, yes or no?
Materialism, of course not.
Okay, so you cannot have rationality under materialism. You kind of cut out at the beginning, but is that correct?
Correct. Strict materialism. You cannot have rationality
Okay, and what's the argument for that?
because materialism would state then that there are no universals, and materialism would state that all things operate under the laws of chemistry. So then all you would have in the brain, that is, and all you would have is chemical reactions. So rationality can't be determined, can't be known, can't be anything, wouldn't exist.
But what you just described was matter in motion. And my question is, under the hypothesis, this brain stuff is matter in motion, what's the argument that it can't be rational? And to answer that, you just described matter in motion. I'm asking for the argument why matter in motion can't create rationality.
That's all it is. You wouldn't know. See, the problem here is that in order to know, you have to leave materialism thing. One chemical state that leaves another chemical state in the brain. It's just chemical necessity. That's not rationality. It'll never be rationality. You have a complex brain. It just has chemical necessary reactions. That's all it is. Is that rationality? Is not rationality. In a material worldview, there is no rationality. There's only chemical, physical necessity. That's all. You don't have rationality. Rationality is based upon universals, the laws of logic. You don't have those in a material worldview. So no, there's no rationality in pure materialism.
Okay. You started off by saying you wouldn't know, and I thought I was very clear that I'm not talking about epistemology right now. I don't care about you knowing. I'm just talking about an analysis of whether or not there can be rationality. So I just
That's it.
want you to make a note. I allowed you to finish even though I had an objection from the very beginning, right? I did not interrupt you. Okay. Now, I have a second line. Let me try and let me try a different approach. Do you think that a calculator, when it operates, is matter in motion?
Yeah.
And a calculator works on logic gates, correct?
My intelligently designed system, yes.
Okay. So when a calculator operates, can it produce rationality?
No.
So when it says, when you put in 2 plus 2 equals 4, that's not rational,
Define rational and rationality.
consistent with logic.
I'm sorry?
Consistent with logic?
Consistent with logic.
Yep.
That's it. That's what your definition is of rationality.
That's good enough for this purpose, yeah.
Hmm. So rationality is just consistent with logic. So is your
We can just use
definition.
that. I mean, like I mean, it's not very rigorous, but it's good enough for this.
Oh, it is? All
Yeah.
right. So you don't know what rationality is. You're just saying it's consistent with something that's rational, right?
Rational would be consistent with the laws of logic.
Okay. So
Something
you're
that is
saying that
irrational is in violation of the laws of logic.
so in a material world, how do you have rationality since it's based on the laws of logic, which aren't justified in a materialistic view? So you see you're having a problem here. Because what you're
Yeah, I'm
doing,
not seeing it, but
you're stepping outside of the materialistic view by you're defining rationality as a universal.
I'm not.
Yes, you are.
I never did that.
Wake up. Wake up. In a materialistic worldview, let's say you have two brains, and one says rationality, the other one says what's rationality? Well, how do you know that the chemical state in brain A is the same as the chemical state in brain B in understanding this term rationality? How do you know? You don't. It's just chemical reactions and necessity. You can't know both brains are identically perceiving the concept. But wait a minute, what concept? Is it a concept constructed by brain A and that's all it is? Is it a chemically necessary construction that applies then to brain B? If you say that brain A has a value, an understanding that applies necessarily to brain B, you've left materialism. You've adopted transcendentals,
Why?
universals.
Okay.
Don't you know this
It
stuff?
seemed like you're.
I thought you knew this kind of stuff.
So if I give you two calculators and I put them in front of you, on one calculator it says two plus you put in 2 plus 2 and it says 4, and the next calculator you put in 2 plus 2 equals 5. Is one calculator correct and one calculator incorrect?
In materialism, you wouldn't know because the material brain is only perceiving symbols and electron reactions.
I'm not asking about epistemology. This is the third or fourth time I've told you that. We're not talking about that. I'm just asking you conceptually. If I give to you, and this is from your worldview, right? From your framework of interpretation, I present those two calculators to you. Keep in mind, both of those calculators are matter in motion. Is one correct and one incorrect?
Being correct is an issue of epistemology, how you know something's right or wrong. You keep contradicting yourself.
It's not going to matter because you know that one, it's either right, it is either correct or not correct, right?
You keep contradicting yourself. You say it's not an issue of
How?
epistemology, of knowing something. Well, how do you know what's
Under your worldview, you can know, right?
from? We're talking materialism.
I said I present it to you under your worldview, Matt. You're not a materialist, Matt. Do I have to remind you of that?
Please do. Please remind me that I'm not a materialist. Go ahead.
I am now
Go
reminding
ahead.
you that you are not a materialist. I presented
And
you the two calculators. I asked from your worldview, is one calculator correct and one calculator not correct? What's the
yes,
answer?
in my worldview, yes, one is correct and is not correct.
Are both of the calculators matter in motion?
Yes.
So under your worldview, you can get correct and not correct, logical and not logical from matter in motion, correct?
Yeah.
Unbelievable, dude. What a joke.
Well, your thinking is a joke. You can't see your own
Now you're wanting
mistakes.
to say, oh, Tom, don't you know about this stuff? I just like headshot you with a stupid calculator analogy, and you want to like posture to me? Give me a
Look,
break.
look, you need to up your game, all right? We're talking about the issue of materialism, and then you make an illogical inference from that position. You then try and sidestep the issue by jumping to the problem, saying we're not talking about epistemology. Then you talk about the issue of knowing. You go to my worldview, I'll give you straight answers. And that's not a problem. Your worldview is the problem. I have no problem with transcendentals, with logical necessities and universals. There's no problem there. The problem lies with your worldview. And I've noticed you try to get away from it. Then you say, from my worldview, can you know these things? Yes, yeah, you can. So what's the problem? Not for me, for you. Well, you gave up that easily?
I think you need a wet wipe, Matt.
Um, well, what I need is a rational discourse with someone who's supposed to know the issues and not pretend to know them like you do.
I think your mistake in that conversation was sticking around long enough to be humiliated.
Matt, you had to be given like a remedial course on logical possibility, right?
Really?
You're in no position to be you're in no position to be posturing about this stuff.
Actually, I am. From my transcendental presuppositional view, I can certainly count for the necessities that undergird logical inference. You can't from your materialistic worldview. If you're a materialist, I assume you are you?
Could ask him when a material conditional is false.
I'm talking to him. Are you a materialist?
No, you're not. I've already said I think we're done, man. You can talk to someone else.
Is it getting too heavy for you? Too difficult? Are you
Maybe someone
materialist?
else wants to talk to Matt. We can only do one at a time.
Yeah,
Well,
just talk to him.
notice that he claims a hollow victory and then won't continue the discussion. Now that I'm
That's
Matt,
right.
you
putting pressure
lost.
on
Like,
him,
why are you still going?
I'm waiting for him to finish the discussion.
Sasha, do you want to talk to Matt?
Of course.
Okay.
So that's one defeated. Who's next?
Do you mean one by you, Matt?
Go.
Yes,
Just let him have it. Go ahead, Sasha.
Yeah.
Well, Matt, you talk about a lot about like how you can ground logic in your view, and you know how great of an advantage that is.
Excuse me, I'm having trouble understanding you. Could you speak more clearly,
sorry.
a little louder? I have bad hearing.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah. So I don't know. You talk a lot about how your view is somehow better because you can account for logic. But my feeling is that you haven't studied logic at all. So the question I would have to you is, when is a material conditional false?
What? Why is what?
When is a material conditional false?
Material conditional. Could you explain what a material conditional is?
P then Q.
Pedants? Look, I'm having repeated difficulty understanding.
Then Q.
Modus tollens? What?
It's not modus tollens. It's just
Well,
if P, then Q.
Okay. Okay, I'm waiting for something. I'm not sure what you're getting at, what you're saying.
I'm asking, so you asked me what a material conditional is, right? I told you,
Yeah.
it's something of the form if P, then
Okay.
Q. And I'm asking you,
right.
when is that false?
When is P then Q false?
Yeah.
Depends on what the antecedent of the P.
You mean it depends on the true value of the antecedent, or do you mean on what the content is?
Okay, what are we doing here? What's this? Is this a game? What?
Yeah.
Oh, it is a game. Okay.
I mean, I told you the purpose already, but I just don't know, like, why you're preaching about the value of logic if you have to ask me what a material conditional is.
Well, I don't know everything about logic.
Yeah, but this is like the basics of basics. This is what you learn on like your, first lessons of the first course.
Okay, so we talked about the antecedent, whether it's true or not, right? Right?
Yeah, so what value does the antecedent need to have?
What value does an antecedent have in P then Q? Are you serious?
Yeah, what would have to be the value of the antecedent for the material conditional to be false.
Look. What are we talking about? What's the issue here? You're going to go into bidirectionality? What? Causal relationship?
Like, I think
Ignoring what?
anybody who knows anything about logic wouldn't
Okay.
have any issue understanding this question.
Okay.
If I
great.
ask you when a conjunction
right.
is false, you're just gonna say,
Okay.
oh, it's when at least one of the conjuncts is
All
false.
right. Okay. Well, then tell you what. Let's test you. Okay. All right. Are you an atheist?
Yeah.
Are you a materialist?
No.
What are you?
I don't know what you're asking.
Do you believe that the physical universe is all that there is, or don't you know what materialism is, Mr. Logic Boy? Come on now. Are you a materialist?
I told you I'm not a materialist. I don't
Well,
know
then I said,
what you're
what
asking me.
are you then? If you're not a materialist, what are you? What do you hold to?
I hold to many things.
Okay, what do you hold to?
I don't know.
You
Atheism.
don't know?
It's a very unspecific question, right? Like I hold to atheism. I hold to that there's some like, I don't know, bananas in my fridge. Like,
Now you're being obsequious. No, you're not. You're being obstreperous. So, are you a naturalist?
no.
If you're not a materialist, you're not a naturalist. Do you believe in the supernatural?
No.
Well, then what's left?
Well, you could just think that the terms are not well defined.
They're not well defined. I did define materialism being that the physical universe, with all its properties, motion, matter, etc., is all there is. There's no.
Yeah, what does physical mean?
What does physical mean?
Yeah.
That which exists, that which is constructed by, let's just say, atoms and particles for now.
Well, I think that physics puts more than atoms and
Okay,
particles.
look, you're just being difficult on purpose. Okay, and
Now, this is a
you
well-known
come in.
issue of defining like natural or physical.
Well, what do you
Right.
hold to? Do you believe that everything
I'm just
is?
telling you it's a well-known issue that those terms are hard to define.
Okay. Do you hold to the idea that the universe is all there is?
Yeah.
Okay. Is the universe then required to operate under the laws of physics and chemistry?
Yeah, but that's just by definition true.
Then you're a materialist.
No.
Yes, that's what materialism is. The universe is the only
No,
thing
you're
that
just wrong
exists.
about that.
No, I'm not. The materialist position
Okay, do you
is.
know what Platonism is?
Yes, I know Platonism is. And I asked you about
Okay, do you
materialism.
think Platonism is
Okay.
consistent with this?
Okay. I'm asking you, trying to get your position here. You gave me what you believe. That's by definition materialism. The materialist
So
position.
you're just wrong about this.
I am.
Yeah.
I'm wrong about
Like
materialism.
for one, look, somebody could think that there is mind-body dualism and think that the minds are part of the universe, right? Like, so yeah, they would still say, yeah, the universe is all there is. Nonetheless, it has minds within it that are not
Are
physical.
you a property dualist or a physical or a substance dualist?
I'm neither. I'm just telling you that me telling you
Dude,
the universe is all there is doesn't tell you whether I'm a materialist.
wow, you don't know what you're
It's just
doing.
a poor inference.
You don't know what you're doing. It's either property
Yes,
dualism or it's substance dualism. Do you know what those are?
yeah, and you're wrong about those being excessive.
What are
You know
they?
what you said?
What are they?
Yeah, so substance dualism is that the mind is a different substance from the body. Property dualism is that the mind is has different properties than whatever is physical.
No,
That's not the only
no,
option.
no, no, no. Property dualism is the idea or the position that the mind is a property or an emanation, emergent property of the physical brain. Can you tell me a third option besides property and substance?
Yeah,
I'd like to know.
Russellian monism.
What is that?
I don't know, big guy, you tell. What
I'm
about
telling you, I don't know what it is. You brought it up. What is it? And please spell it. What is it? How do you
okay,
spell it? I'm sorry, what? How do you
do you
spell
want
that?
to look at it? I'll put it in the chat.
Yes, please do.
There you go.
Cillian monism. Ooh, I'm going to enjoy looking this up and studying it. Okay. Has elements of both physicalism and idealism that undermines the causal closure of physics, lacks clarity and coherence. Yeah, okay. I'll enjoy researching that even more. So I'm getting the impression you know a few things about philosophy and are trying to apply them. I don't think you really know what you're talking about as well as you're trying to convey. So
I mean, I just
when I
showed
ask
why
you,
your inference to all that exists is the universe. So therefore, a materialist is wrong, right? I just told you
so
why it straightforwardly doesn't follow.
I want to know your position so I can attack it. And what you're doing is
Okay,
not
what do you
trying
want to my position on? Like, fill of mind? metaethics, normative ethics.
And what you're doing is not giving me any answers.
I gave you
I'm
an answer
afraid.
that I'm an atheist.
Okay, you're an atheist, and from your atheist perspective, I want to know what your view is of the universe, for example.
Yeah, so what about the universe? Like, what exactly do you want me to tell you?
Is the universe all there is?
I already said yes.
And the universe is restricted to the laws of physics and motion, matter, and chemistry, right? Is that correct?
Physics, no.
It's not
Physics
correct.
can
So wait, are you
physics
saying
can posit
the
physics more interesting entities than matter and motion.
So you're saying then that physical universe is all there is, but the physical universe is not limited to the laws of physics?
Limited by the laws of physics, but that doesn't tell you that all there is matter and motion.
I just asked you if that's your position. Do you deny that the universe operates under the laws of physics, inherent within its own nature and essence?
I'm not sure about the second part, but the universe operating by like physical laws is almost by definition true.
Do you hold to that?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So it shouldn't take 15 minutes to get you to answer a simple question. You're just obfuscating because you're trying not to have your position assailed. From your physicalist, materialist position, how do you justify universals?
I already told you it's not materialism. We went over this.
What? Okay, how do you justify universals? How do you do it?
I don't believe in universals.
Oh, so you don't have universals. So redness is not a universal property? Roundedness is not? The laws of logic are not? Right?
I don't think there's a universal entity of redness.
Okay, I asked that. I
Okay,
said,
what's your question?
what the universals are. You know what universals are, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Redness is a universal. Is that correct?
No, you can just say redness is a property.
You don't know.
Look, I mean, people can say, oh,
you don't know
like
what you're
the
doing.
redness of the wall or something,
Yeah, you don't
without
know.
committing to the object of redness.
Yeah, you don't know what universals are. So redness is just a common thing used to describe what types of things universals are. And you just, it's really interesting. You come in here and you try and embarrass me, and you
I
use
already
big
did
words,
though, right?
and then
You didn't know what a material conditional was.
So what? I didn't know what a material conditionalist was. So
yeah,
what?
So you don't know the basics of logic.
Well, maybe not, but I'm certainly
No,
outdoing you
not
with
maybe
logic.
not. You just don't know.
And I'm certainly outdoing you with logic. That's for sure. Because I ask you
No,
questions, and then what you do is you back up because you don't want to give anything specific, which means it tells me you don't
I
even know
gave
your
you
own,
an answer.
which means you don't even know
I
your
gave
own
you answers to
position.
the specific questions.
Excuse me. You said you're an atheist. I had to wrench out of you whether you're materialist, physicalist, or whatever. I had to do it over and over. You don't even
Do you know what
your
Hampel's
position.
dilemma is?
Oh gosh. Look, if you can't talk rationally, we can move along. Okay?
Wait, but do you know what Hampel's dilemma is?
I don't understand what you're saying.
Do you know what Hampel's dilemma is?
Hansel's dilemma?
Hampel. Hampel's.
How do you spell it? Sorry, I do have a hearing problem, okay? I'm not playing games. I do have a hearing problem.
I believe that. Okay, well, my club deck is like, if somebody else can spell it in the chat, that would be helpful. But
Well,
H-E-M-P-E-L.
Yeah.
H-E-M-P-E-L?
Correct.
Thank you. No, I don't know what that is. No, I don't know what that is. H-E-M-P-E-L. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so the point is that, well, this is like a dilemma for a physicalist, right? Because if you say that what physical means, so the physicalists want to say that all there is like physical properties, physical objects. And that could be interpreted two ways. One is that all that exists was described by current theories of physics. But the problem is that we know those theories to be false. So you probably don't want to say that, right? That would just mean that, physicalism is false from the get-go.
I'm having trouble understanding.
Say that, are you having trouble like parsing the words, or?
No. I don't know how it is for others, but I'm having difficulty following all of your words. I have 80 decibel ringing in both ears. I have hearing aids in right now. And I don't know if it's a connection, and no disrespect meant at all. It appears to me or sounds to me as though you're mumbling some words, which is probably not the case, because I would think that others would understand you no problem.
Do you just want me to speak louder or slower?
Like that, perfect, just like you did.
Okay.
And I do apologize. It's
okay.
I do have this problem. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, so Hampel's dilemma is a dilemma for a physicalist, right? And the physicalist wants to say all there is physical objects or properties, something like that, right? But the problem is that you need to actually tell us what physical means there. And if you say physical just means posited by current scientific theories, current physical theories, that's clearly going to be false because we know that those theories are false. And we just know that, there's a theory on the horizon that's going to overcome or like overtake the current theories. On the other hand, if you say, well, it's the objects and properties described by ideal physics, it's sort of uninformative, right? Maybe like, the ultimate physical theory is going to involve like ghosts and dualistic minds and so on. It also might be sort of trivial. So that's the dilemma, which is why I won't tell you that I'm a physicalist, because it's hard to define physical.
Okay, I grant that from your perspective. All right, how do you justify universals then? Well, I'm sorry, I guess you don't know what a universal is.
I
You didn't get
just don't
Rabbitt's.
believe in universals, right?
You don't believe in universals. Then
Right.
how do you have communication across different brains?
I utter some words and you associate them with, certain meanings. And then you utter back something at me and I associate it with certain meanings.
You are aware of the problems of that, right?
I mean, there's Frege's argument. I don't think that is very good.
I didn't understand it. There's what?
There's Frege's argument for Platonism from the impossibility of communication. I don't think that argument is very good. I'll tell you why.
Okay, I asked you how you justify universals. You say you don't believe in universals. Then I asked you, how do you have communication if you don't have universals? And then what you did was you presupposed a universal by presupposing the law of identity, where that words are what they are and can be communicated. You contradict yourself.
I think you're sort of confused about the law of identity, but we can put that to the side.
Well, isn't the law of identity is simply that something is what it is and it's not what it is not. That's just the basic law. A equals A. That means
no.
That's not it. That's not what the law of identity is.
I mean, not really, not in modern logic.
But in modern logic.
Yeah.
Oh. But it's one of the most basic principles of logical reasoning. Are you saying modern logic doesn't use the basic principles now?
I mean, I think it would be easier if we just put that to the side and talked about the law of non-contradiction.
No.
I mean, I think you think the law of non-contradiction is just as fundamental, right? So it will just be easier to talk about.
But you're wrong about the law of identity. It's one of the most fundamental aspects of logic.
Let me be wrong on that, and let's move to something which I think will be easier to talk about, which is the law of non-contradiction.
Well, you presuppose the law of identity in your statement, okay, about what words are, that would there be a transcendental necessity for you to be able to communicate to me on the same concepts. If your brain and my brain are not identical, then how do I know and how do you know that each of us is perceiving or understanding what you're saying consistently, since our brain chemistries are different? That's the problem with your position. That's why you have to assume, as you did in your discussion, the law of identity, that you mentioned concepts, nouns, words. This means you are saying something to me that I'm supposed to understand. You don't do that based on materialism or physicalism or whatever it is. You have to have transcendentals, but you deny those.
I mean, I don't see what the problem is, for example, just saying that the law of, well, let's just say law of identity, if that's better for you. It's just something which describes everything in the universe. Okay. What's the issue there?
You're obfuscating.
Okay.
Are you a nominalist?
Yeah.
Okay, so no universals. Right?
Yeah, I already told you.
Right. I'm just verifying. Okay. So you deny that anything transcends our experience.
No. There's nominalist theists. For example, William and Craig, right? He thinks that God transcends our experience, but there aren't, like universals.
Well. So you're a nominalist who denies the existence of universals, yet you presuppose them in your discussions of what nominalism is. Nominalism is a concept, it's an idea. It's not arbitrarily defined by your brain and then I pick up on my brain. It's something that each person in here can understand, and philosophers have understood. Nominalism, of course, have different degrees and some issues related to it. Sure, but you have to presuppose universals in order to even discuss the issue of nominalism. You presuppose the law of identity, and you will presuppose the law of non-contradiction. If I were to say something that was not true by definition of nominalism, then you presuppose the idea that universal truth values of contradictory statements can't hold their value. I just see you as you contradicting yourself completely.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really get what you think the problem is. Like, of course, people who don't believe in universals give different accounts of what a concept is and so on.
Denying universals means that everything that transcends our experience must be denied. Excuse me. That means there's no
Yeah,
absolute
I told you
truths.
that's false. I told you that's false already.
No,
And I
it's
gave
not
you an example.
false. No, it's not false.
So there are theists. There are theists who are also nominalists, right? So they will deny
Well,
universals and say there's something transcendent to our experience.
we're not talking about people we haven't cross-examined to see if their position's rational or not. You're just offering something that's not been verified. So, are there any absolute truths?
What does that mean?
What does it mean that there's an absolute truth?
But how does it differ from just like a normal truth?
Wow. So if there's no universals, then how do you have truth values that are always true?
Do you mean always true or necessarily true?
Both.
Okay. I mean, I don't know. You construct a system, right? Like first order logic, and it turns out that certain propositions within that system are necessary given that system.
So if nominalism is true, there's no universals, then how can nominalism be true?
If there are no universals, then nominalism is true.
But you see, the problem is if nominalism is true, it says there's no universals. Is that not then a universally true statement that there's no universals?
You can have statements which are true at all times in nominalism. That's not an issue.
Nominalism says there's no universals. Hence, there's no universals, there's no universal truth. But then you say that nominalism is true. But then, is it really true if nominalism is true? Because you can't have universals. Therefore, you couldn't assert to me that it's true. It's just an opinion you have, which isn't founded because it's not universally based. It's just something out of your chemical necessity. It doesn't work. Nominalism, it just doesn't work.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds to me like you just can't really step out of the idea that truth and principles of logic and so on are universals. So you're sort of taking something from your view and telling me it's inconsistent with my view.
No, I'm showing
It's
you
not
from
really
your
helpful,
view.
right?
From your
Well,
view.
in my view, truth and so on aren't universals, right? So,
If your view, what? Say again, please.
yeah, well, in my view, those things aren't universals, so there isn't an issue.
Yeah. There is no universal in nominalism, even though universals exist. Redness,
Right,
roundness.
they denied it. The point is that they denied it, right? You see how you're like putting
What?
something in from outside of the view to criticize the view.
Do you know what a universal is? If it says there's no universals, then it has to be able to define them to say they don't exist.
That's right.
So what's a universal? What's a universal definition of universal?
There doesn't need to be a universal definition.
Well, if it's not universally true, then how do we have truth values? Because what you think, what I think could be different, not common. So how then can nominalism be true? I define it the way I want to define it, and you lose.
It sounds like you're just
Easy to
equivocating.
Nominalism is easy to defeat. It's not held by very
you
many
understand that it
people.
would just be to equivocate, right? If you say
Look,
I define universals in a different way, and
there you go.
so nominalism is false.
Give me your definition.
That's just equivocate.
Give me no, it's not. Give me a because then you have universal idea equivocation. You contradict yourself constantly. Tell me what a universal is.
Like
that you deny.
I don't know, like a property, a number, something like that.
Property, a number.
Like I don't know. There's like a lot of gray things in the world, right?
Wait.
And maybe a gray house, a gray dog, and then the person wants to say, oh, over and above that, there's a universal thing that kind of connects all those things, right? That's the idea.
Yeah, you're on the right track. So gray this or gray that. So yeah, like redness, you have grayness. Yeah, that's
right.
Called universal. You deny that grayness can occur in different places at different times?
No, the nominalist wants to say there can be a gray house and a gray dog, but there isn't like a third thing over and above the gray dog and a gray house. That's just grayness on its own.
Yeah, that's what your materialism, atheism necessitates, but ultimately it's self-refuting because you presuppose the idea of nominalism being true. You can't demonstrate that it's true. It's just a faith statement you have. That's all.
I'm not sure what you mean by demonstrate. I can give you arguments for why it's true.
In order for you to give me an argument, you have to presuppose the laws of logic, which are universals.
That's not a problem.
They're universals.
No, the nominalist doesn't say they're universals.
Wow. Look, we can move along. Okay. Your
Okay.
nominalism is well known as a problem, and it has a lot of internal problems with it. And I'm showing them to you, and you just ignore them and keep going on by definition to definition.
No, that's like probably it's at least the plurality position against amongst modern philosophers.
And if I were to ask you what must be the case in order for nominalism to be true, what would you say?
Oh, no universals exist.
So what must be the case in order for nominalism to be true?
That's what I just
Or,
answered. No,
or is your
it must be the
nominalism?
case. It must be
Is
the
your nom?
case that no universals exist.
Well, if that's the case, that no universal exists, and it's a universally true statement. The condition is
Yeah, but that's
universally.
not what a universal is.
But that's what you're saying it. What must be the case in order for nominalism to be true?
Look, the universe exists at all times. It's in a sense a universal statement. It says that something holds at all times.
The universe is
Nonetheless, it's not a universal.
the
It
universe
just
does.
sounds kind of similar.
Wait, I'm not understanding. Are you saying when I asked you what must be the case for nominalism to be true, you said, did you say the universe itself, the universe has to always exist?
No, no, no.
Okay,
I
what did you
told you
say?
that I told you that no universals would have to exist for nominalism to be true.
Okay, what must be the case for nominalism to be true? What must condition?
I just answered.
Then there is no case. There is no condition in which nominalism is true. What must be the condition?
I just said
You're not
would have
listening
to be
to
the case.
me. You're not listening. Nominalism is not a position that is autonomous. It exists inside of a broader context. Nominalism is not an ethereal presence out there in space interdimensionally, and then you could bump into it and, oh, there's nominalism. It's not like that. What must be the
Yes.
case for nominalism to be true? For one thing, you have to have a mind, because the mind has to be able to conceive the concept of nominalism.
Right,
What must
that's
be
just
the
false.
condition?
That's just
Oh, so then
false.
are you a Platonist?
Now, look, whether nominalism
Come
is true
on.
or not is independent of whether minds exist.
How do you know that's true?
True by definition.
Oh, so you just say so. By definition, the Christian Trinitarian God exists. Therefore, I win.
Yeah, I mean,
I just
for that
defeated
to
your
be
atheism.
yeah, I mean, if that's just an analytic truth, I don't think it tells us anything of interest about the world, right?
It's interesting to me.
Okay.
I use your assumptions, your logic,
Look,
and
another way to put it is,
oh
if
boy,
I tell you the necessary apple necessarily exists, you can agree with that, right? Because
a
it's a sort of
necessary,
like it's a sort of
there's
deductive truth.
a
A
necessary
necessary,
apple.
yeah, a necessary apple necessarily exists, right? You can
What's
agree
a
that that's
necessary apple?
an apple that's necessary.
So an apple has existence with redness, normatively speaking, certain molecular biological structures within it that by definition is produced on a tree. So there must be a necessary tree also, right?
I mean, sure, we can go with
Okay, if
that.
there's necessary tree, there has to be necessary respiration, water, and growth, and seeds.
No,
No?
no,
Oh, we have an eternal tree that exists out there without water,
yeah,
without. Oh, so that's a universal idea that you said yes to, but you're a nominalist who denies it. Oops.
kind of missed the point of the example.
I missed the point of the example. Yeah, because I thought through it. You missed the point of your own example. You can't
I
have
think
a
I'm the
fact or a.
authority of what the point of the example is.
Yeah, a necessary apple. An apple is something that has a universal quality and understanding, and yet you don't believe in universals. And necessity is a universal thing as well, and you don't believe in universals. If it's necessary, then it's necessary in all
I'm just
places and
trying
all
to explain
time.
to you. I'm just trying to explain to you
You know what
what
you're
kind of
doing.
definition. I'm just trying to explain to you what kind of definitional truth
Yeah,
would
you
you be
don't.
talking
You don't
about
know.
when you say that God by definition exists, right? And why it actually doesn't tell you anything of interest about the world.
You don't know what you're doing.
Okay. If you want to look up another thing after the conversation, look up de dicta versus de re distinction.
Can you spell it, please?
DE
Wait, no,
space.
here, hold on. Let me type it out.
Okay.
V is in Victor.
No. D
B
E.
is in B. E.
D as in Delta.
Oh,
Somebody
alphabet.
else do it,
someone.
please.
Yeah, someone type it in.
De dicto and de re.
Yes.
Let's type them in. I'll tell you why I want you to type them in. Sec. Yeah, pretty funny, John. Okay, thank you. DAYDICK. It's pretty awesome. Come on. The reason,
Wait,
ladies and gentlemen.
I don't get the joke. What's the?
Well, I don't know. It's in the text. I want you to write out the word. And okay, there it is. Thank you. Okay. So I made a good joke. That's all. It was funny.
Oh yeah, I can't. The chat is not reloading for me, so I don't see
Yeah.
it.
So what I'm doing is over the years, when I talk to people who like philosophy, is I just write down the term because I don't know
Yeah, it's good
everything.
practice. That's good practice.
Yeah, that's what I do. I have my document open in Microsoft Word. It's 86 pages, 27,811 words, and I just wrote de dicto de re, which means I'll go study it, and I have
Yeah, that's
everything.
good.
Yeah, I have everything in alphabetical order, and so I'm going through. And for example, like
You should move that to
metaphysics.
Excel.
What's
Wait,
that?
you should move that to Excel if you want to keep it in alphabetical order.
No, I can teach. I should teach Excel. I know it very, very well. And I prefer Word because I just keep things in, and there's ways to sort in there. But anyway, the problem is, or the issue is, I do a definition like moderate realism, define it, and then I research the problems with it. Monism, defined different kinds problems with. I just learn naturalism, what it is.
Okay.
I have
Do you ever go?
nominalism. Huh?
Do you ever go beyond looking up the definition and the problems with the view?
Yes, I talk to guys like you.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I do it all the time. I talk to guys like you. What'll happen is I will research something, let's just say. Now, there's an awful lot to research in philosophy. I don't have it all memorized. And I'll talk to people and I test because, hey, you guys can teach me things. I don't have any problem with that. I don't have all the answers. And I write down what you guys say, not to hold it against you. I write down, okay, this person said that, that person said this. And I go through and I research it. And so
Okay,
that
is my
86,
name next to the dicto
no,
de re distinction?
no,
Oh, okay.
it's, what was that? What was that when you just said? The distinction, what?
No, it's the same
Oh,
thing,
no,
de
I got
dicto
it.
de re.
Oh, okay, I got it up there. You had the word distinction. Okay. And so, I've got all kinds of stuff: anti-realism, causation, cognition, epistemological issues, fallibilism, Gödel's incompleteness theorem, the Gettier problem, the Frege-Geach problem. I love this stuff.
Yeah, Matt, when you start asking people to teach you, this is where you're just conceding that you've lost. This is what you normally do.
Okay, so that's not a logical necessity. You make a
It
mistake
wasn't
there. To
necessary.
ask
Yes, that's what you
somebody,
do.
no, if someone doesn't know something, it doesn't mean he's lost an argument.
No,
He
this is
doesn't.
a
It
pattern
means he
of
doesn't understand.
behavior that you display.
All right, whatever, dude. Okay.
Professing, are you there? Professing, are you there? I want Professing to talk to you, but I don't know if he's here. He's a.
Yeah,
So, do you
hold
want
on.
to talk? Do you know who Matt Slick is? He's a very celebrated, famous
Nice
apologist.
one,
He's
Heidi.
Calvinist.
Yeah,
And
Matt, I was watching you on like Monday night, debating the Trinity on SFT's channel. Great job pointing out Galatians 4:4. That's why Christ had to say God, because he needed to have God because he was the law. Great job, dude. I love that.
That's right. Galatians 4:4. You can also go to Matthew 3:15 and Matthew 5:17, and you can go to some other verses I could talk about. That's right. I do need to go in 10 minutes at a quarter after because I got to finish my Bible study for tonight. I'm teaching on Romans 9 through 23 of all things.
Professing is a preterist. Did I get that right? Professing a preterist.
Yeah.
Preterism is the view that all things prophesied by Christ were fulfilled in roughly 70 AD. Partial preterism says that most or some or all, not all, but most were fulfilled and will be fulfilled again at his second coming. I'm a partial preterist. Full preterism is defeatable.
I think he's a full preterist, aren't you?
Full preterism is refuted by Acts chapter 1, verses 9 through 11.